hurried introduction into into FlexLogger plugins. It's not that I'll talk fast. It's just that I've written this very, very quickly. So apologies for things like typos. And then one last apology. I do apologise quite a lot. I did try and get a demo working. I did run out of time, but I have written a lot of code, so I will show some of that in slide form rather than with a waveform generator actually doing what I've tried to make it do. But yeah, we'll get there, right? So I'm going to do a bit of an introduction to me and then kick off into some FlexLogger. So who am I? And I'm probably not sharing my screen either, am I? Sorry, sharing my camera. Not that you'll be able to see me, but just in case you're interested, that's me. If you can see me. So my name's Steve. I'm the National Instruments Business Development Manager at Farnell. So when NI moved to distribution in 2021, there were a few distributors before that, but globally they moved to distribution in 2021. Farnell's been the global distribution partner since. Outside of the roughly 300 accounts that NI still manages direct, any other account is now routed to distribution, systems integration, consultancy, one of the various partners in the NI ecosystem. So that's where we as Farnell sit. We provide the purchase route when a customer used to buy direct from NI, that can now come via us. And via the omni-channel approach, that means that you're not tied to any distribution partner or ni.com. You can choose whichever route's easiest to you, and hopefully we try and support that. I promise this is not a long sales bit. It's just an introduction as to why I'm talking to you rather than an NI person. So I'll find a key that works. So NI at Farnell, I started in 2003, and since then I've been trying to support the community and customers by providing things like technical support. So to provide this support, my background's in engineering, so I used to work at a systems integration partner as an engineer. And through that experience of about 8 years at that partner and 15 years total using NI kit, I should hopefully be able to support most questions, although my knowledge is heavily slanted towards hardware because that was my area, leveraging the software development team for the rest of it. But I learned enough to prove that the problems weren't mine and that they were in software. So it's always good to cover your back. So outside of me, there's a whole team within Farnell of business development managers. We're all from similar sort of background, some NI, some non-NI, and we can provide customers with that technical support directly. We also have an in-house technical support team that are trained up by NI, and we've got links into NI's technical teams to provide a rapid access to some of the right answers if you do need that. Outside of that, we support on-site supplier days, additional support such as we can help you with demonstration units or loaners. There's a star on that. That's depending on the availability of the product. So if we've not got it in stock or if NI haven't got it in their loaner pool, then it's going to be difficult to get you that product. But there's usually other ways and means to try and find you something similar that can still do that proof of concept. And then also trying to support the community. So providing user group support, so either hosting or presenting like this. Usually I'm there in person buying pizzas, so thanks for NI for helping on that occasion. On this occasion, we also support things like GDevCon. So we started last year with supporting via sponsorship in the Tech Cave, and we're there again this year. And we also support at NI events such as NI Days coming up at the start of next month. I'll be at NI Days. I won't be at GDevCon, unfortunately, but yeah, my colleagues will. So it'd be good to see you if you're in London. If not, maybe we'll meet at a different event, maybe this one next time. And then sort of coming towards the end of the sales bit. So why would you pick Farnell over, I'm aware other distribution partners may have joined this user group previously. So what we bring to the table is, so we're Farnell. For most people, we're on some form of e-procurement. We're on some sort of purchasing platform for you. Where you're familiar with us, and not only can you get an iKit from us, But whatever else it is that you need to wrap around your NI kit to get your test platform up and running, you can get in a single PO from a single source. So it's efficiencies on your side, saving time, things like that. And we also, because we're Farnell, we've got a large stock. So last time I checked, which was last week, so these may have changed slightly, but not dramatically. We've got a heavy amount of stock for NI products, and it's not just accessories, because that could be a way to frig these numbers, but genuinely like PXI modules and chassis and C-Series modules and chassis as well. We've got a heavy amount of stock in. So that means in the UK, near enough next day delivery. Sometimes it's the day after, but that's something that the couriers handle, not us. So we do our best. And then that could be, so this is just to try and show that, yeah, whatever it is that you're putting together. So the picture on the left is something that I've built for NI Days to take with us as a demonstration, where everything to build that platform has come from our warehouse next day. So it's, yeah, industrial controls, power supplies, distribution, sensors, test and measurement outside of NI too. I can say that because this is not an NI event. Software licensing, support, cables, you name it, we can probably help you with it. So yeah, feel free to ask, I guess is the bit there. So anyway, sales pitch over. I always feel awkward doing those at these groups, so I'm going to stop there. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is FlexLogger and some LabVIEW. Two things, thanks to Nick for priming me. So he did mention a bit of FlexLogger and some of the things that you can and can't do with it. This is normally where I'd be taking a look around the room for some feedback, but I've got a screen in front of me, so I'm going to ask Chris to let me know if there's any hands up. Has anyone in the room or online used FlexLogger? Is anyone familiar with it already?
Got 0 in the room, Steve.
Cool. Super. So that answers my next question as well then. So if you're not familiar with FlexLogger, chances that you've already developed a plugin slim. So that means I'm not going to be teaching you to suck eggs, so I'll carry on. So FlexLogger is a companion software for DAC. So anything that's NI DAC MX driven, you can use in FlexLogger. It's included, also known as free, as a FlexLogger Lite. So FlexLogger Lite has slightly reduced functionality, but the getting your DAC up and running and getting from starting an application to getting a test bench up and running is still all available within Lite, and it's still really, really easy to configure. So the benefits FlexLogger provides you over a LabVIEW application is its configuration only. So you don't have to do any code. You don't have to create from scratch or even from a basic architecture each time. You double click, enter some things like scaling factors and sensor types, configure a quick screen, and then you're off and away. So I've got a demo kit here. It's got about a dozen channels in. The first time I ever started FlexLogger, genuinely never used it before. I was up and running with all 12 channels scaled without data sheets in about an hour. And that's not because I'm good at FlexLogger. Like I said, it's the first time I've ever used it. So it's a really simple way to get basic data logging applications up and running. Now, if you want to do a bit more than just data logging, so say you want to do some slight automation based on something like an alarm, so a channel goes above a value, turn off a digital input, that kind of thing, digital output even, then you can, in FlexLogger full, FlexLogger as they call it, you can put in events and alarming, and there's more advanced features, like I think you can do CAN interfacing in the full version, and there's just some more advanced features that you can leverage to get it to be a more feature-rich data logging application. And it's not the end of the world in terms of price. I think it's about the same price as LabVIEW Base, so you're not talking thousands to get it from free to fully featured. But then you can take that functionality a step further by, as soon as you've got the full version of FlexLogger, you can use plugins. And plugins are customizable plugins to add additional features to FlexLogger, which is to say if you wanted to add functionality such as writing out to a different file format, or you want to plug in. So my plan was to connect an arbitrary waveform generator, so you can write third-party instrument support using Skippy, or you could communicate to an existing controller using Modbus TCP, or a sensor using 485, or do like PID control or other complex calculations that aren't included in the existing included calculations, like averages, min, max, that kind of thing. So anything outside of that, this is how you'd add it into FlexLogger. Now, admittedly, if you've not seen FlexLogger at all, slight oversight on my part in that I probably should have shown you what it looks like. But I get the laser pointer, so you can see in this picture, when you connect a DAC up, it finds all currently connected available DAC systems. So that could be CDAC, USB DAC, PXI based, the new field bus stuff. So long as it's DAC MX driver, it'll pick it up. It'll show you all available modules, chassis, and all available channels within that. And then from there, it's a case of double clicking to provide that configuration into it. So,
Steve.
Yep.
Just a quick question. So, in essence, could FlexLogger be your like logging module in a bigger architecture? Do you think it can go to that level, or do you think it's not quite extensible to that level?
So one of the things that I found while trying to do this is there's two FlexLogger toolkits in LabVIEW. So there's the one to generate plugins, but then there's another one to leverage FlexLogger from within LabVIEW, so you can target your FlexLogger application. So kind of like how you can do Instrument Studio configs and then include them in things like test stand, you can do that with FlexLogger within LabVIEW as well. So yeah, I guess you could use that.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd probably suggest it won't be as lightweight an application as it could be if you did your own DAC.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
to get off the ground quickly, then yeah, possibly. So getting started, what do you need to access to do your own FlexLogger plugins? So, first thing is, so why would you do it? Is so if you've not got the time to develop your entire application with your data login and all your configuration and everything else that you can do, that you can get a perfectly customized application in LabVIEW, you just need to quickly do some logging. But it doesn't do, say, your pressure sensor over 485, you just want to wrap that up, then that's where you could use this, or to add, say, a sequencer, which I'll get to. What is it? It's so the plugin development software development kit is basically a project template, and that project template includes things like the build spec as well. So you don't have to go into any of the plugin creation. It's just the custom code you need to add to it. To do it, you need FlexLogger, so not Lite, because you can't plug into FlexLogger Lite. You need full FlexLogger. You need some LabVIEW, so I don't think it matters which version of LabVIEW. And you need the application builder. So obviously, if you've got Pro, you don't need application builder. If you've got base or full, then you'd need to add that on. One of the things that Nick mentioned is LabVIEW Plus X test workflow. So to support you with this, if you wanted to play and you've not got, say, FlexLogger, I'll send this round, so the links in the QR code and the text at the bottom, or you can scan the QR code. We've got a promo on at the minute, so you can get 3 months of a full license. So it's not a trial license, it's the full version of LabVIEW Plus for 1 penny. One of the disadvantages of being a distributor is us and NI can't do zero cost transactions, so it's a penny, but reasonably affordable. And then so that has in it LabVIEW Pro and the full version of FlexLogger. And as it's 3 months, you also get things like technical support and training entitlements during that subscription period as well. Outside of that, you need the FlexLogger plugin. So this middle QR code will get you access, take you to the download page for that, and the right-hand QR code I'll take you through to the user manual for the SDK. So wherever I've put Farnell, it lands on our page. Wherever I've put NI in the middle of the QR code, it lands on NI's page. Just so you know where it's going to take you. Trying to be a bit transparent. So once you've got your environment set up, you've got that installed, you've got FlexLogger, LabVIEW, the SDK downloaded. You create a FlexLogger plugin from a project template. So when you spin that up, you get your standard list of, producer, consumer, actor framework templates on the right. There'll be a new one for FlexLogger IO plugin, and then it'll give you an option as a, do you want to consume set point data from FlexLogger? Do you want to produce set point data to push into FlexLogger? Or do you want to do a mixture of the both, where you pass data both ways? And they call that a perform calculation plugin. It doesn't necessarily have to be a perform calculation if we do something else, like a sequencer, for example. So once you've picked the thing, once you're in one of these, there's nothing to stop you writing code to turn it into the other. So it's not like if you set a consume data set point project that you can't then pass data back into FlexLogger. It's just that's what the template's set up for. And then within the project, once you've created it, the window needs get more laser pointer back. So this is what your project will look like. So you get 5 VIs and a control in your LabVIEW class, and your packed project packed library build spec. You also get the plugin manual that I've also linked to, so you don't need to necessarily go to that. And generally speaking, so when you load the plugin into FlexLogger at the end of the development process, the state chart or the flow that it runs through is, after it starts, it runs initialize once, moves on to configure session, and then goes into processing, where it stays until a configuration change is made. That configuration change could be an update of a set point or a parameter, or it could be stop the process, as in you've removed the plugin from your project, for example, in which point it'll just finalize and clean up. So these two will be on the next few slides, just so I can talk through where they fit within sort of how I've developed the thing that didn't work. If it helps, I think I know why it didn't work. It's not necessarily my code, so I'll get into that. So yeah, that's a good point. So this is not me teaching you how to make something that doesn't work. I know what didn't work, so I just didn't have time to fix it. So the first bit is sort of the wrapper around your plugin. As with most drivers, or I think custom devices for Veristand, if you've ever written one of those, it's very similar. So you have to spin it up and then make sure that you close it down at the end of your usage as well. So the initialize and finalize are very much around your plugin management. So they're only called at the initialization and the destruction of the plugin. So it's a once call. So whatever happens in here is just for the plugin itself, not necessarily what the plugin's trying to do, so the function. And just to prove I've done some code, so this was my initialization. So what we've got going on here is, and I apologize, the resolution went funky when I took it off of my dev laptop and put it into my work laptop. But you're basically creating or getting your plugin class and then setting the timing of your plugin. So this is how often your plugin process needs to happen, and then we're creating some plugin specific parameters. So in this case, I was trying to connect to a TCP/IP device, so serial number, port IP address, and clearing the serial number, because I use that later on for something else. And then moving into defining what channels my plugin can target. So, and I'll show you what these look like in FlexLogger in a bit. But like I said, I've got a waveform generator. So things like frequency, amplitude, offset, phase, type of waveform, and whether its output is enabled. So these are my channel names, which building these with, these are 2 channels, so 2 loops. Anyway, so these are creating channels and then adding parameters to the channel for waveform only, because I didn't find a way to set these as an enum as a selection. They may well be. I've just, again, hurried to get this up and running. So the initialize class in slightly better resolution is, so it initializes a class from the parent class, which is plugin.lv class. So if you've ever done classes in LabVIEW, this bit will be reasonably familiar to you. If you've not, like me, the beauty is it's mostly handled for you, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But obviously, if you do have an understanding when it goes wrong, you'd be better placed than I was. You can do things like configure the timing, so on data ready. So this is more event driven, but you can also have it constantly polling for data and things. You can create the plugin parameters. So these are, think about these like an instrument specific setting rather than a channel or set point specific. And then create plugin channels. So this is your serial number, serial number, port, IP address, that kind of thing. This is, I've got channel 1 and 2, and each channel's going to have various characteristics that we need to be able to configure from within FlexLogger. So very much like you would in LabVIEW. So then what does that actually look like in FlexLogger? And this is the slide I was frantically trying to tidy up, so the formatting may go horribly wrong at this point, but we'll fingers crossed. So, so that first top section where we're adding port and IP address, that looks like this in FlexLogger, which is a pop-up box generated by a plugin configuration. So if when you've added the plugin, and maybe I can show you what FlexLogger looks like at the end as a demo rather than a working plugin, you click this, you get this box, and in my code, the IP address and port populated by the user, serial number and device are then read back. So like I was saying, just because I've done a consume set point data template does not mean you can't write back into FlexLogger with some read back information from your device. So again, channel types, channel names, for example, look like this. Ignore the red bar, that's because my plugin doesn't work and I've got an error. But what I'm doing here is just below here, I've got some default values. So you give each channel a name, a default channel name, unique identifier, default channel name, and a default value. And then in parameters, which is the last box that I showed you, you can edit the parameters in FlexLogger, but that also pops up in the details information under each channel. And again, this is found via clicking the cog on each line, or when it's a new line, if you just double click the line, the channel, sorry, it also brings up that configuration. So again, from a user point of view, once you've created it, everything's click and configure. LabVIEW is just the back end to do your plugin to add additional function. And finalize is even code that I understand. So there's nothing in there really when you start it up. This is just where, so say if you've got like variables or any external files opened, for example, if you're doing like a different file login, this would be where you need to close them down as part of your plugin cleanup on exit of FlexLogger, for example. Not much on that. So after you've put your wrapper around your plugin, then you need to put your wrapper around your function. So you've got a configure session and a cleanup session. So these are exactly what you'd expect. And again, just prove I've done some code. This is where you're reading in like most up-to-date data from the FlexLogger user interface, doing something with it. So this is a driver plugin. So what I'm doing is trying to initialize my device and setting it to a known state if it connects. This is the bit where if I've got a port and an IP address input by the user, then I'll actually try and connect. Otherwise, this doesn't do anything. So you can build some logic into this, and then, like I said, you can pass it back out. Even though this is a consumer FlexLogger plugin, you can write data back into FlexLogger.
Steve, there's a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if you want to.
Sorry, I can't see the chat, but yeah, do you want to?
Oh, okay, cool. So the first one was about accessing the LabVIEW Plus deal that you mentioned in Portugal. I don't know if
Yep.
that's something you can answer on the spot or
It is,
not.
yeah.
It's
So
apparently not available on the website.
My contact details are at the end, or I'll drop you a message after this. But yeah, we can definitely sort you out in Portugal. It's global, as far as I'm aware.
Cool. And the second one was about the arrows being the wrong way around. Someone was saying that the configure session, there's no exit. I think that's on that diagram there.
Huh. You're not wrong.
But they were right in the other one. I'm sure they were right. I'm sure they were right.
So interestingly, that's not my picture. I pinched that straight from the documentation. So I'll pass that back to NI.
Oh, nice. What there is.
Nice one. Sorry, just making a note of that.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, well spotted. So yeah, this arrow is supposed to come out of configure session and into process, rather than. Although I suspect it's actually supposed to be both ways, because you come out of configure session and I think you can go back into, but not the way that's drawn. That's going to be wrong on every slide. I apologise in advance, because I talked about that one. Yeah. Is that it for questions before I start?
It is, mate. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, configure and cleanup are they're run whenever. So yeah, they're rather than management of the plugin, they're management of the function. They're called whenever the function is stopped and started. So that is on the first run or first stop, and whenever a user changes settings. And it's for things like managing instrument connections, calculations, variables. So making sure, like you would with a standard init, you want to make sure things are in a known state. Resetting parameters. Now I've put a question mark on that because you don't necessarily want to reset all your parameters, which is why in here this section is not that section. This section is true or false, because I found out that part of my code didn't work when I ran it for a second time, because it just kept writing the same variables in, constants. And you can also provide instrument feedback to the user. So question mark on there is just to run and say, it's like, yeah, you can still write from a consumer. And this is what I just quickly ran through, but in better resolution. So you're reading the port and IP address parameters, so they're plugin parameters, reading those, doing some logic on it to say check that things are actually input by the user. And then you can also, so this is plugin parameter reading, this is channel information reading. So this is getting the latest inputs from FlexLogger, so set points to then provide out to the instrument. And you can do that by, you can get all valid channels. So every channel that hasn't been disabled by the user, you can then loop through those and do it programmatically, so that you can grow and shrink, but depending on what the user's actually required. And you can also configure your instrument in here. So this is initializing drivers, testing communications, and initializing the instrument state once communications are confirmed and things. And initializing. So a lot of this is heavily leaned towards an instrument driver, but say you were doing a PID loop or a calculation that you need to start from the same point each time. This could be where you're initializing those values within that calculation, or initializing a new file if you're trying to log to a different file type, for example, or a database. So whatever state you need to start your process in from a known position, this is the VI that you need to do that in. And then, like you'd expect, the opposite of that is on the cleanup. This is where you'd close your session. So yeah, again, for an instrument device communication, this is where your driver close is, but on a file, this would be a file close, for example. Although I think this is actually where my thing went wrong, because I was closing it each time. I think I should probably have shifted that to the finalize. But yeah. So after you've initialized your plugin initialized your function, and then you need to do the process, right? So this continually runs at the rate defined in initialize, and runs until a configuration change occurs. It's basically where the magic happens. It's where your function code lives. So in my code, in a instrument device code, all it's doing is, if it's an output device like a waveform general power supply, it's reading a set point from FlexLogger and applying it to the device. If it's the other way around, if it's DMM or a scope, you'd be reading it from your device and applying it and feeding that set